All right, good evening, everyone. It's great to see you here. We're going to get started, as I said. I am Jenny Reed. That's me. I'm the Executive Director of the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. That's what it looks like. That is our region. And I want to let you know a little bit about NMCOG before I get started. NMCOG is actually, well, how many people in the room knew about NMCOG before coming to tonight's meeting? Okay, all right, that's better. So a number of you don't know a lot about NMCOG. We are the regional planning agency for Greater Lowell, and we are one of 13 regional planning agencies across Massachusetts. So every community in Massachusetts has access to the services of a regional planning agency. We were established actually under Mass General Law Chapter 40B in 1963. And we serve the communities that you see here on the screen. We're based in Lowell. We have a great team of professional staff who I'm going to introduce in a moment. And we support things like planning across land use, housing, transportation, economic development, municipal services and collaboration, transportation, environmental protection, and climate resiliency. So a lot of different topical areas. And of course, housing is one that's very important to the region. We also advance local and regional priorities. We've completed or are in the process of completing many housing, open space, and recreation plans. We also secure new transportation, infrastructure, housing, and planning grants for our region. Many of our communities, we help with planning and technical assistance. We've adopted a variety of regional plans, including a regional economic development and transportation plans. We've expanded our climate resiliency and mitigation practice, and we also lead regional dialogues on key topics like the very one that we're discussing this evening. And with that, I want to actually thank Christopher Hayes, who is our Director of Housing and Economic Development, as well as Kelly Linema, who's the Deputy Director, and Christian D'Amelia, there he is, who is our Regional Housing Coordinator, and Donna Vuig, who is outside, who helped you to get in here with registrations. She is our Executive Assistant for their tremendous work on tonight's meeting. So I just want to give them quickly a round of applause. And it is a lot of work to get these summits pulled together, both the content, the logistics, and of course the wonderful speaker lineup that we have this evening. We also have a number of other NMCOG staff members. If you could just raise your hand and be recognized. We want to thank them also for their support for this evening. Many of them are helping you to get settled and get oriented with the topic. They're also going to facilitate a number of conversations that we're going to have throughout tonight's meeting. So thank you so much. I also want to recognize a number of state representatives who are in the room with us this evening. We have Representative Tara Hong. We also have State Representative Vanna Howard. And a number of other elected officials from their the region, including Chelmsford, Pat Wojcik, who is also a council member. Oh, this is pressure now. And I know that I saw some other, Chuck Walkovich, who is also a select board member, but in Pepperell. Chuck. And I believe we have some incoming city council members with the city of Lowell, but I do not see where they are at the moment. Sydney, who is an incoming city council member. So great to see you here. And did I miss anybody else? If you were not recognized, I want to say thank you. Oh, I did. I missed somebody else. No. All right. Well, it's wonderful to see all of your faces here, particularly our municipal representatives and leaders. This is a conversation that we really hope that you are able to engage in and embrace. We especially are happy to have a lot of folks who are not just from the city of Lowell respectively, but also from our various participating municipalities. So thank you for being here and for all that you do to support people across the region. It's inspiring and it's hopeful for me to see so many state and municipal leaders who are here, service providers who are really working in the field every day on this topic in particular, many housing advocates who are in the room, developers, people from the development community, and community partners coming together. Addressing housing and homelessness requires that cross-sector dialogue and collaboration and getting it done. a coalition in Greater Lowell formed years ago and identified three essential tools to create housing for our most vulnerable residents. Those were, we need more funding, that's always obvious. We need things to move faster, more speed in terms of unlocking those dollars and the developments that we need. And we need sustained commitment by local and state partners, as well as the federal government. I recently served on Governor Healey's Unlocking Housing Production Commission, and one clear takeaway from our work, which was not just that we have not produced enough housing across the Commonwealth, is that homelessness and housing insecurity are not separate from the state's housing production challenges. They are actually a direct consequence of them. When we underbuild, when policy and financial barriers delay deeply affordable and supportive housing, and when our local communities are left to solve structural shortages alone, people fall through the gaps those systems create. We are at a moment when policy shifts are actually destabilizing the community safety net, and that local, state, and federal partnership must work together to meet the scale of this emergency. Massachusetts has shown meaningful leadership, in my opinion, but no single level of government can solve this alone. We need durable, long-term systems of support. And tonight is about grounding ourselves in reality, naming the pressures that people face, and also about what we can do to solve those problems. When public and private partners come together with shared purpose, I believe that we can create real change. We've seen it in this region, in fact. There's a lot of great examples of it, and I think that we can build on that momentum. The At Home in Greater Lowell strategy, which you see many examples of around the room, in fact, I think on your tables there is a copy of the Part 1 report of that plan. That outlines a path forward, producing more housing of all types, strengthening stability and addressing homelessness directly, and this depends on local leadership, regional coordination, aligned state and federal resources, as well as local resources, and a shared commitment to dignity and humanity. As we begin tonight's conversation, I invite all of us to focus not only on the obstacles, which I think everybody is ready to talk about, but on the urgency and the opportunity that's before us. Thank you so much for your partnership tonight and for the work that we will continue to do together. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Chris Hayes, who is going to walk us through some information that will help to ground the conversation before we see a panel discussion that will be moderated by Kelly Lynema. So thank you so much.
Thanks. Hello. So I'm Chris Hayes, Director of Housing and Economic Development at NMCOG. And I am charged with talking about the summit logistics. So some boring stuff, but important stuff. We're going to have a tight 2 hours, so there aren't really any program breaks. If you need to take a break, go ahead and do it, please. Restrooms are right across from the registration table over there. Coffee and water and tea and so forth are all ready for you. And my speaker notes are not here, but I think those are the important bits. You might have heard me mention the what does home mean. There's a QR code on your little signs there, and there's also a QR code right here. And we want you to scan that or visit the little URL that's written up there to put in a few words about what home means to you, and we will be talking about that a little bit later. While you're looking at your table stuff, by the way, the books, the buttons, those are all for you to take home, so please enjoy all that stuff. Like I said, we'll have a tight 2 hours. We have opening remarks. We have an amazing keynote panel that Kelly will be introducing in just a few minutes. We'll have about 20 minutes of table talk. So that's discussion around your tables. And if you're wondering why we gave you table numbers, it's so that you can meet new people and have a diversity of opinions as you discuss those. And we'll have facilitators taking notes. We have health resources in action. They'll introduce themselves to talk about our storytelling program. And then finally, we'll have a wrap-up statement and adjourn at 8 p.m. But, you know, we've talked a little bit about what At Home in Greater Lowell, and we've got some piece of paper in front of you that is that, but what is it exactly? What are we talking about? It was a year-long process. We talked to hundreds of folks over 2024 and 2025 in surveys and select board meetings and summits like this one to create a 10-year housing strategy. It has 6 goals and 17 strategies, and these strategies are envisioned as big swings. They're up here if you want to take a look if you were able to look before, or if you want to look after. But, and you can also look on your phone if you go to NMCOG.org/AHGL, at home in Greater Lowell, AHGL. You will find the part 1 that has a bunch of data and those goals and strategies. But we're here focusing on homelessness and housing insecurity. 2 years ago, in this very room, we had a regional meeting on homelessness. I think Jenny might have referenced it briefly. We had over 100 people, I think it was like 120 people, discussing this issue. We heard that funds are a challenge, that we need policy changes. Most importantly, we need a commitment to action. We also heard some next steps, and those were integrated into those strategies that I'm talking about. That includes state-level involvement, includes broadening the tent, more different types of people from the private and public sector, talking about a toolkit of materials for service providers to utilize, including public education materials. And the one that maybe we can start talking about and thinking about how we could kick off today, which is subgroups to focus on specific issues and how to work together on changing policy, creating change. Because unfortunately, from the data at least, we haven't made much progress in 2 years. Things are getting a little worse. Eviction rates and foreclosure activity have both been rising since the pandemic. And housing cost burden is about the same. 30% of Greater Lowell residents pay more than a third of their income on housing, and 14% pay more than half of their income on housing. It's no surprise that so many people are so close to becoming homelessness after a family emergency, after a health emergency, after maybe losing their job temporarily. We do know that there was a spike in homelessness in the last couple of years due to various changing patterns of migration and economic development and the tightening housing squeeze. As interest rates changed, a lot of things changed. But the important thing to notice is that's not new. We've been seeing a slow but steady increase in homelessness since at least 2007, resulting in a tripling of 2024. And although we haven't tripled again, it certainly is not getting better, according to the last point in time counts. Significantly better, that is. I mentioned 6 goals and 17 strategies. We're highlighting today 2 of those goals. One of them is about subsidized housing. We need to create more capital A affordable housing that is accessible to people at a variety of income levels. Another goal is specifically about housing security and anti-homelessness, and I'll just mention those strategies that we thought were bubbled up to the top as the big swings. And the first one isn't that big of a swing. It's to create and maintain a data dashboard so that we all know what we're talking about, how many units are in development, how many units have been created, how many beds there are, and what the point-in-time counts are, and what the mismatch is. We also want to collaboratively develop proposals to reduce red tape, to identify funding gaps, and to request additional funding. We heard loud and clear that there's too much red tape and we need more money. So let's dig into that. What kind of programs could we fund if we have more money? What funding sources have disappeared that need to fill up? We need to start talking together about how we can work together to identify those and fix those issues. Finally, identifying sites for permanent supportive housing in each community. So permanent supportive housing, for those who don't know, is housing that is for extremely low incomes or perhaps no income. And it pairs housing with services, behavioral health, mental health, perhaps disability support. It really depends on the population, but populations need different types of supports. Those could happen in any community, not just Lowell, and we need to talk about where we could put those things. But we also know to restore balance to the housing market, we need to build all types of new units, market rate, affordable, and permanent supportive housing. that meets our evolving needs. And what we really want to talk about, is moving beyond talk and moving to action. We are building a municipal toolkit with model policies, step-by-step guides, and public education materials, just like we mentioned, that towns can use and that nonprofits could possibly use. We'll also talk about our storytelling program, including a website to share stories, social media, and we want to basically break down myths and put faces to the data to understand really how the policies play out on the ground. We also want to start a housing supply accelerator. That is a committee that has public officials at all levels and private entities across the housing spectrum, like finance, like construction, development, management, and community-based organizations, like many of the ones that you represent. And that team will come together to implement these things, identify the policy solutions, and activate them to accelerate the housing production at all levels. So that's what you have from me. We're going to jump right into the panel because they're way smarter than me. But I'd like to introduce Kelly Leinema, Deputy Director, who will be facilitating the panel and introducing them. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Chris. I do want to take a moment and invite our panelists to come up. My name is, as Chris mentioned, my name is Kelly Leinema. I am the Deputy Director at the Northern Middlesex Council of Government. And I really just have to, I know Jenny gave me some credit at the beginning of this, but Chris and his team are really the big thinkers behind this meeting tonight. So thank you again to them for pulling this all together. As we get started, I just want to take a quick moment and go down the line and have our panelists introduce themselves and name their organization, and then we'll get started with our discussion. So let's start with Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Heller.
Oh, hang on just a second.
I need a microphone.
Yeah.
Although I can project. Thank you. I'm Rachel Heller, the CEO at CHAPA, Citizens Housing and Planning Association. We are a statewide housing advocacy group. We work primarily at the state level and also at the local, regional, and federal levels to expand our housing supply, our affordable housing supply, and access to that supply.
I'm Julie Lemire. I work at House of Hope Shelter in Lowell. It's been around since 1985. I've been there for about 25 years. Became the executive director about almost a year now, so it's been great. I can't wait to talk to you about it more.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marty Martinez. I'm the president and CEO of the United Way of Massachusetts Bay. Our mission is to create conditions that allow folks to create economic opportunities for themselves and their families in communities all across our region. We serve in Massachusetts Bay, so we serve all the way from the New Hampshire border down to Attleboro and almost to Framingham. So we support the 120 plus communities across this area, investing resources, working in partnership with local government and local nonprofits to organize around the issues that impact our communities, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Greg Richin. I'm the head of real estate and chief financial officer at Caritas Communities. We're a nonprofit affordable housing developer, owner, and operator of supportive housing. We have about 900 units in Greater Boston, all the way up to Salem, not quite this far up, but we're hoping to make a dent and help do what we can here as well. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. So as you can see, we have a great panel of experts here representing, working along the housing spectrum. So we have individuals here working from big picture policies and advocacy to development of affordable and deeply affordable housing. And so with that, I want to begin by asking you, talk a little bit about what your work entails. You've kind of covered that a bit, but how is it part of a larger comprehensive strategy to address homelessness and housing insecurity? We can start with Greg, since you're...
Oh, okay. Yeah, happy to speak to that. So, I think, since I joined Caritas 5 years ago, the world has changed a lot, whether it's inflation or rents. cost of construction. So my day-to-day job is acquisitions and development, overseeing the organization's financial strategy. We have to grow to survive. We have to continue to expand. And I think the way it kind of fits in is we all have to know our role, and we have to sort of know our core competencies. I wouldn't be a great case manager, but the point I'm trying to make here is, as a real estate developer, we need to acknowledge that there are issues. There are issues with the efficiency of the affordable housing programs. Red tape was referenced. That's an issue. I think it goes back not just to the affordable housing agencies, but even making it easier to develop market rate housing, because we have a supply issue in this state. It's hard with so much single-family zoning and so much red tape and the cost of construction and everything else, to make it work. But I really do think there's hope. I really do think there's a way through it. I'm developing a project right now down in Quincy. It's passive house. It's fossil fuel free. It's really exciting. Something that makes Caritas a little different is we house individuals exclusively. And so a lot of people focus on the family and the elderly, and that's so important. But some of these individuals coming out of homelessness really require that third leg of the stool, which is supportive services. And so, this new project we're building, it's taken over 2 years from sourcing to closing in order to get going. But I think coming together like we are right now and evaluating what's working and what's not working and what can be improved on is really what this is all about. So knowing your core competencies and then delivering on them. For example, Caritas really likes to partner with supportive services providers because we know we're a real estate business with a mission wrapped around it. We partner with great groups like Mahasa, Clear Path for Veterans New England is going to be my new partner down in our Norwood project. I think coming together and not necessarily trying, as nonprofits, I know we try to fix all the problems at once together, but I think if we focus on what we're really good at, and instead of trying to be a jack of all trades, we'll get farther together.
So how our work fits into the larger strategic, I was too busy listening to what you said.
Or your core competencies.
The core competencies that are there. So for us, hopefully folks know what the United Way is. Hopefully you know the United Way and that you understand or connect to what the United Way might be. But if not, our goal is pretty simple. It's to improve the communities that we support. And our goal to do that is to do that across a variety of impact areas. And one of our key impact areas for the United Way of Mass Bay is safe and stable housing. And I think for us, one of the key pieces that's critical to us is that if we're trying to create economic mobility for families in our communities, we have to start with housing. Housing and basic needs have to be all integrated to truly create economic mobility. And that exists across the footprint that we're trying to work with and we're trying to create in terms of those strategies. For us, what does that mean? That means we not only need to invest resources. We as the United Way of Mass Bay, we are a large United Way in comparison to most. So for example, we have put out about $35 million last year alone across our impact areas in Eastern Massachusetts, funding organizations across our region, including here in Lowell, to make sure that the work we're doing sort of is connected across all of our impact work. So we invest resources. We bring folks together around sort of strategic partnerships. So we sit on a coalition that I think Rachel's going to talk more about in partnership with CHAPA around supportive housing. But we bring folks together to share best practices, to drive forward collaborations, and to make sure that we're driving forward those resources that are necessary. But we're also about increasing access and awareness to good policy. We know, for example, from our perspective and from what we know in terms of strengthening communities, housing first is an approach that works. And so I say that to you because we need to do a lot of work, especially now, to reinforce how important it is that people get housing and get the support necessary to keep housing. And so for us, policy and advocacy is a big part of what we do. We go to the State House and lobby in Boston, but we also go to city halls and town halls because lobbying needs to happen in those places as well to ensure that we can do the work that's necessary to move forward on the issues that we care about. And the last piece the lever that I would pull is that we work to try to be as localized in community as we can be. I'm joined today by Marie Illinois, who's here. Marie's our Senior Director of Economic Inclusion and Wellbeing. More importantly, Marie lives in Lowell and is on the Hunger and Homelessness Commission here in our community, here in the community. And so the reason I lift that up is that it's important to us that we're a large regional sort of organization. We want to drive resources and drive strategies that are informed by community and that are tied into the solutions that are local. So yes, maybe took me an hour and 45 minutes to get here from downtown Boston today because that's where our office is. But we care deeply about the communities all across our geography. And I share that because these solutions are as local as you can get them. We must work locally to drive forward the solutions and tackle the challenges that are in front of us. And for us as the United Way, it has to be about scaling solutions that work and pushing government at all levels. There's a lot of pushing to be done at the federal level currently, but pushing government at all levels to understand strategies then that can work. And then for the United Way, we try to mobilize philanthropy to invest in those strategies. So that's a little bit about the role we play and how we think we fit.
Great, thank you. And Julie, going from the big picture to somebody who is working locally, how would you describe where you sit on that spectrum?
Yeah, so House of Hope's first priority is safe, affordable housing. They come in, and that's what we want for them, to be rehoused. How do we get there? The journey is hard for them. Even applying into shelter is hard for them. They need to qualify. They need to be eligible. They need to provide their documents. It takes time. So then they get into shelter. Okay, now they have a length of stay of 6 months. So what do we need to do right away? Get them on all the housing lists, advocate for them, get them some mental health services, get their children into school, have the case managers kind of go through an assessment with them of what they need. Because when they leave us, we don't want them to come back. And that's what House of Hope is seeing. We're seeing generational homelessness. I've been there 25 years, and now I'm seeing kids from like 15 years ago coming back with their children. We've opened 4 shelters since I've been there. That's 58 families. When I first started, we were a staff of 20. Now we're 60 because the need is there. We have 5 properties of housing. We house 39 families in permanent housing, which is awesome, but we need more of it. These are the problems. These are what we have to talk about. We have all these people come into House of Hope for tours from the city, all these different providers and programs. We need to work with them. We need to see what they're doing. For maybe we can do the same, maybe we can work together, maybe we can go to the State House, whatever we need to do, because change is what we need. It's not ending, and we need a solution. And these summits are how we're going to get there.
And speaking of the State House, somebody who is working at that scale, maybe Rachel, you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. So at CHAPA, we bring together so many different people to work on solving this problem. We work with affordable housing developers, we work with community development corporations, people who are working in shelter, legal services, policymakers, municipal officials. And the idea of bringing so many different people together is that we are developing effective solutions that will work in our communities, solutions that work across the state, and that most importantly work for people. At CHAPA, we think a lot about, we have 5 Ps that we think about. First is people. Everything we do should start with people. Why? We're not creating units. We talk about housing, we talk about units. These are homes. This is where we live. Thinking about what people need. Then we need to produce more housing. We simply don't have enough for the people who live here, let alone for a healthy, thriving future. Production alone will not solve our problems, but we cannot solve our problems without producing more homes. Preservation. We've got to hold on to everything that we've got. Planning. We need to plan for more. In our communities, we have a history of really using our local rules to say no. We need to flip that. We need to flip the script and start saying yes. Yes to a bright future. Yes to a future where everybody has a safe, healthy, affordable home. Yes to a future where people can thrive. And then political will. That's the last P. Because really, this problem is so incredibly solvable. It just requires all of us actually saying yes. actually going out and supporting more homes in our communities. Right now, it's exciting that everybody is talking about housing. Now, it's not exciting. The reason people are talking about it is because everybody is feeling the pain. But when we're all feeling this pain, this is a moment of opportunity. And our policymakers are focused on this. I want to thank both of the state representatives who are here, who are heroes on land use and rental assistance, because that is critical. We need these tools. So we have a new goal. The state has set a goal of 222,000 new homes. That is fantastic. When you set a goal, now we know what we're aiming for. Before it was just, I don't know, keep going. We have a goal, we know what we need. So 222,000 new homes in the next 10 years. That will stabilize home prices and rents. Stabilizing home prices and rents is important, but we all know the home prices and rents are too high for too many. So when we're talking about homelessness, we're going to need to do a lot more. So within that 222,000 goal, CHAPA is focused on that overall number, but also the affordability. 20% of these homes need to be affordable for people who are at a moderate income. So we think about like 40B or inclusionary zoning, where it's more of a moderate income. 10% need to be deeply affordable. This is for people with extremely low incomes. Marty mentioned the Supportive Housing Pipeline Coalition that we co-lead. We need for half of the 22,000 new deeply affordable homes to be supportive housing, because there are people who are experiencing homelessness, experiencing housing instability, that do need services. And we need to make sure that as we're growing our overall pie, that we are focused on all populations and we are delivering the kind of homes that people need.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. I do want to shift. I think we have to have a little bit of real talk. Everybody in this room, I think, is we aware of what's happening at a federal level. We did kind of optimistically name this summit From Homelessness to Hopefulness. But I think we need to be clear-minded about our current reality. So the federal government has completely shifted its role regarding policy and resources for our unhoused population, including a major restructuring of funding for organizations. And if you've looked at the Continuum of Care, NOFO, you know what I'm talking about. This really creates this environment of deep uncertainty in an environment that's already uncertain, right? And this is for providers and affordable housing developers. And the state, as Jenny mentioned, is doing what it can to step up. I know organizations like the United Way have resources, but I think I think one of the things I want to shift to next is to understand a little bit more about what your organizations are doing to approach this time of uncertainty and rescinded funding. And Rachel, we can start with you since you have the mic.
Okay. Well, the first thing is to defend the programs that we've got. Marty was saying supportive housing works, housing first works. That is absolutely right. These are proven methods. We have a lot of programs at the federal level that have been critical to this, whether it's Section 8 or the Continuum of Care funding that's been used for permanent housing, housing counseling. All of these are effective programs. So one, we're working to defend them. And this is challenging, but we cannot simply stand aside and let these programs that we know work be taken away. So that's the number one thing. And we're working with our partners throughout New England. CHAPA convenes the New England Housing Network. We're much stronger when we work together and we go to DC together and we advocate for public housing together and all of the kinds of homes that we need. So that's the first thing. The second thing is pulling every lever that we've got at the state and local levels. This is where we have control. We can decide these things. And so it's really important that the legislature continue to do the great work that they're doing and put more policies into place that will allow for more of the homes that we need. A couple of great bills that we're working on, YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard. This would be multifamily zoning, so allowing for apartments on every property owned by a faith-based organization. This could unlock the potential of 500,000 new homes across the state. Now, not that many would be built, but it would certainly make a dent, and it comes with affordability built into that. We have a YIMBY bill, Yes in My Backyard, which tackles things like parking requirements and minimum lot sizes, these things that really make it difficult to create housing. So just knowing that in the legislature. There's so much power at the local level, and we're supporting groups across the state. We have a municipal engagement initiative where we support local coalition building so that you all can move forward with the great goals that you have all set in your plan. building the coalitions, looking for those opportunities to move housing development forward. So we're here to help with that. We do a lot of programming to train people, help people in that storytelling I saw up there. Those are all, you all have a great plan. If we can be of any assistance, let us know. But the first thing is to actually have that plan and those strategies, and we're working to support that kind of work at the local level. Oh, one last thing I left out. Sorry, budget. We are also advocating for rental assistance, public housing. This is critical to addressing homelessness. We need to have the rental assistance. We need to have supportive services for supportive housing. We need to preserve our public housing stock. And so all of those voucher programs, all the housing and homelessness prevention programs at the state level is a place where we can advocate, and all of you can advocate as well.
So, House of Hope doesn't give up on anything. So if we get budget cuts, we say, okay, what are we going to do now? We're still thinking about housing. We want another property, and we're going to make it happen because we need it. And you just got to advocate for it, like you said, talk to the right people, come together. Homelessness isn't changing, unfortunately. I wish it would. I wish I'd be out of a job, but we're going to keep on fighting the good fight. And the clients are getting scared too. Like, I talk to them every day. They're scared. They don't know what's going to happen. So reassuring them that we're here for their support. We work with plenty of agencies that are so wonderful, DCF, the school department. We work with the food bank, all these providers that are wonderful, that are advocating for the same thing as we are. So we just all have to be a voice in it and kind of speak the same language.
Yeah, I think it's important that we, be honest about, to the point of, what situation the federal government is creating, right? Because the federal government is creating challenge and setting fire to things. And I think for us as an organization, the United Way, you have to put the fire out. Right? You can't pretend that the fire isn't there. But then you got to figure out how you keep focused on progress, right? And I think that's an important frame to think about, right? So think about this. We're going to take it out of housing for just a second here. We all saw the crisis around SNAP, right? It got a lot of attention, a lot of visibility. Things are on fire. Things that we need to do, that we need to press and push, right? So the fire was there. So we raised a bunch of money and put money out. And I know we as United Way, I think, put out $85,000 here in Lowell to a variety of different organizations to help create immediate access to food. We actually have a systemic problem around food. We actually have huge gaps of why there's food insecurity all across income levels. And lots of people are impacted by food insecurity. We have a problem before the fire was in the news, and now the fire again has been put out. We still got to focus on the larger issue that's there, right? And we can't let the immediate attention of trying to solve something be where we put attention and then go back to it's business, it's back to normal, right? And so I say that because that's true in our housing work, right? We've got to figure out, I was sitting with a local mayor, a town manager actually, and the town manager was talking about the impact of the continuums of care and the funding and the subsidies that will be gone if the NOFOS resurrects itself or whatever's happening now. And the city manager said one of the things that they're going to do is take it as an opportunity to rethink how that supportive housing is sort of presented in community, how the supportive services actually show up to help people get the support they need to retain that housing. And that town manager talked to us as a funder, because we fund some of the agencies doing the supportive work, saying some of the support isn't strong enough. It doesn't actually help everyone retain their housing, and it impacts some quality of life issues in the neighborhoods that town manager is struggling to figure out. And so we also need to use the moment to do some reimagining. We need to take some of the challenges that are in front of us and also say, okay, so we're losing some federal funding because things are on fire. Let's retain everything we can, but at the same time, let's figure out how we continue to do the work and progress, but in a better way. Right? That town manager looking at us to say, you're investing in agencies. I want them to think more effectively about the supports people need in my community so they can retain that housing. That's a challenging conversation to have with organizations who are trying to keep people housed. But we should take this moment to have those hard conversations so that it can be even stronger moving forward. Because what's the fire that's being raised around supportive housing has to do with it hasn't worked, people are still homeless, look at the quality of life issues, on and on and on. Some of those things have nuggets of reality that we don't pay attention to. And so we need to take this moment to sort of think about that as someone who's a convener, a funder, a mobilizer of donors. We are going to take the moment to do some reimagining so that we can get more support and that we can get more visibility for the work we need to do, regardless of what the federal government continues to set on fire. We have to put them out, but we also have to think about where we're going. Last but not least, we also have to hold the levels of government that we do support and support our work accountable. And so there's conversations we have to have at the state level, and we have to have it in city and town halls to make sure that the way forward is done in a way that's based on best practices that truly will create access for people. Our friends need advocacy too. And that's a really important thing not to lose track of in this moment. It can be harder, but it's a really important part of the equation. And for us at the United Way, it's a key piece of how we're trying to navigate this system right now.
Thanks, Marty. So I think first and foremost, we are concerned at Caritas given the significance of the issues, but particularly on vouchers and the uncertainty there, but also with our services partners, that third leg of the stool, which is so critical to keeping people housed and not going back into homelessness. On the real estate front, it hasn't been all bad earlier in the year. There was an increase to low-income housing tax credits, which is the number one way we develop housing. But we need more of that. We need to stop taking one step forward, two steps back kind of thing. And I think I would just echo everything that was already said as far as the uncertainty, which I think is really hurting things right now. But on the real estate front, again, trying to work with the state is, I would just say I'm grateful that we're in the state of Massachusetts because I think it's really challenging in other areas. Even if your municipality might not be open to it, I found that the local housing coalitions, Norwood, for example, is really great. It's all about community feedback. I do one deal at a time, and at first there's always going to be naysayers, and there's always going to be issues, and it's a feedback process. I think as long as we keep that level of hope, we'll get through the rest of it at the local and state level.
Great, thank you. We're going to move to Q&A right after this next question, so start thinking of any questions you want to ask to the panel. But I do want to connect to why we're all here tonight, which is to really listen, to learn, and share with each other, and start to think about how we, not just think, start to move into action in addressing homelessness and housing insecurity. And so, Chris went through at home in Greater Lowell and how this is setting goals and recommending a suite of actions that we can take and that our communities can take at an individual or a collective level. And this is from catalyzing housing production and creating walkable, complete communities, but also kind of addressing those funding and partnership issues. But most related to tonight is our two goals around Goal 3 and Goal 4 around eliminating homelessness and addressing the root causes of it in each of our communities. And so with that in mind, I want to ask you, what has led to your success, your organization's success in moving toward your goals? Are there any specific or innovative tactics that you've observed or you've employed yourselves within your organization to reduce homelessness, or how you've approached host communities and worked with these municipalities to help facilitate your work?
It's a great question. I guess I'll start because I have the microphone. So I would start with the project I mentioned in Quincy Point. I was able to acquire a site, get state funding, et cetera, and we went through planning and zoning, but there was also another nonprofit in the neighborhood who already owned a couple properties in the vicinity. So instead of competing with your fellow nonprofits, I called the president of NeighborWorks, and we decided to do a joint venture. And then Father Bill's came in as the supportive services provider because they were already providing services right next door on Winter Street. So I think that kind of collaboration not only helps the deals be more efficient, more effective financially, but also brings a community response out. Maybe someone doesn't know Caritas in that part of Quincy, but the mayor has a good relationship already with Father Bill's or Neighbor Works. So I think that kind of collaboration really feeds on itself over time. And then there's additional nonprofits and for-profits, honestly, that want to be involved, that want to help do the right thing, that want to drive efficiency. I think being completely honest, zoning and making sure zoning doesn't hold things up longer than it should is a big part of the push that I would say if you're at the municipal level and you're trying to make a difference and make a dent. Join your planning board or your zoning board, see what you can do, boots on the ground. It's not that hard to review a site plan, and it's well worth the time spent to really drive this mission forward. Even like I said, one deal at a time. It feels insurmountable sometimes, but at the end of the day, when those people or individuals first move into their homes, it's the look in their eyes is just a game changer. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's not having a housing conversation only, right? I mean, I think for us, it's connecting the dots for folks, right? I mean, and I think whether it's talking to a legislator or a state rep or a mayor or your funder, right? Please don't forget your funders because they need the advocacy as well, or your neighbor. It's about connecting the dots between the system. Especially when you think about some of the goals that are here around housing security, the safety net. It's all interconnected, right? So it's not some people have housing issues and some people have food issues and some people can't pay their utility bill and it's unaffordable for some. No, they're all interconnected. And so I think we generally have to do a better job, and the United Way is trying to do this very deeply with our partners and our donors and elected officials to connect those dots, right? So the inundated of calls we got around food, we talk to them not only about food, but all the other issues impacting low-income folks and homeless folks and folks who can't afford to actually live in our communities. We got to connect the dots for people. You want to just talk about food with me? Okay, we can talk about food right now, but it's important to remember there's all these other challenges that folks are facing. I think we have to do that. I think we're too often talking about that one issue that we're focused on to the same people. And we need to connect the dots for folks. Your expertise, your experiences, and your lived experience allows you to already have expertise when you're having these conversations. Connecting the dots is a powerful way, and we have found it a powerful way for folks to see the things that they can be doing that impact the entire system, not just this one thing, this one place, this one area. I think that's really important, and that's what we're trying to do.
So House of Hope has lots of accomplishments, but I'm going to focus on two. One is our intern program that we created probably about 10 years ago, where we have internships in our maintenance department with our staff, in our retail department at our store, in our housekeeping department with our staff, and then our maintenance. Did I say maintenance? Did I already say that one? There's one more. Which one? Three. No, we created one more. Housekeeping, kitchen, culinary department. So they're with our chefs every day for 3 months. So we created that program to do, to learn how to work. How do you dress for work? You got to get at work on time. You got to be there on time. You got to get your childcare situated. Then they do 3 months of this. So, for example, with the culinary department, they're one-on-one with the chefs. They're learning these skills. Then we help them get ServSafe certified. Then we do their resume. Then we help them get a job. So that has just been tremendous. They've gotten full-time jobs. They have confidence. It's been overwhelmingly wonderful. The other thing is our permanent supportive housing. We have 5 buildings of permanent housing, but the key component is the support. We have a housing team and caseworkers that meet with them. They go out and visit them. They tackle problems before they're too huge. You can't wait until the eviction. You can't wait until, the stress is this high and it's just too overwhelming. So having that supportive service is key, because that's that relationship, that communication. It's just having someone there that can say, it's going to be okay, let's just take this one step at a time.
One of the things that we're doing that's really come about in probably the last 10 years is supporting local efforts and helping people to say yes to more housing. We saw that we were having success at the state level. We were passing a lot of great policies. That was great. Ultimately, decisions are made locally. And there's a great report out of Boston University that documents land use meetings in eastern Massachusetts. They went through all these zoning board meetings, planning board meetings. Whew, that was a lot of work. And what they found is that who turns out at local meetings is overwhelmingly against all development. It's like 85% of the people who show up. That does not represent people in this room. It does not represent actually most of our communities. It's a very small segment that has a very outsized voice. And so we've been working to help people to say yes. And you could say yes to the MBTA Communities Act being implemented in your community, because that is a real change where we're actually saying yes, picking the areas, allowing the development to move forward. You could say yes to a House of Hope development that's being proposed in your neighborhood, a Caritas development. It is a game changer when people in local meetings say yes. And I just want to emphasize a point that Marty made. You are all experts. In a public meeting, everybody talks about the expertise they bring. You are an expert, whether it's your own story, whether it's the story of someone you know, your own experience, you are an expert, and it's important to share that. Also, working together, kind of back in, Marty and I can go on a roadshow together. It's important to work with other people and tell the story of housing, not just as a housing advocate. We started this new coalition called the Our Massachusetts Coalition, and it's a place for non-housing people to get all the stuff they need to be able to go and say yes. We are hearing about housing from business leaders like we've never heard before. This has become a #1 issue because they need their employees to have a place to live. They need foot traffic for businesses. They need employees. And so this is a big issue. So hearing from business leaders, hearing from the local coffee shop owner, hearing from the restaurant owner, local hospital, this is a big deal. Hearing from teachers, municipal employees who can't live in the communities where they work. These are the stories. This is what people love about their communities, right? They love the downtowns. They love the people who work for their community. They need a place to live, and we need to work together to make sure those stories are being told. And then we have local resources. And you should all work together and advocate to use them, whether it's the Community Preservation Act or home dollars or whatever it is that your community has available. Really focus that on solving the problems. I think I would say have a housing production plan. You have a great regional housing production plan. You've got all the facts you need. You've got the strategies, and now it's about what you do with it locally.
All right, great. Thank you so much. I do want to open it up to questions. So we have Apple has a microphone. Yes, and raise your hand. I know a lot of you can project, but we are recording this, so if you would take a moment so that Apple can get to you with that microphone before you ask your question. All right, there's Steve right here in the front.
Thank you, Apple. Thanks to the keynote speakers here today and to NMCOG for putting this on. Appreciate it. I represent Pepper. I'm on NMCOG Council. I just had a general question for the panel. What first steps can our local regional communities take to help with homelessness? I know you touched upon a few things, but can you give us some more concrete things we could probably do to help get the message out to our communities without bringing these forums to the communities themselves? It's the first thing I thought about. But other than that, what do you recommend?
I would just start with it does go back to saying yes and helping people understand how many people in our communities are actually in danger of homelessness. You have the data here to share and to make it real. That is important because there's too much othering that goes on where people don't think it's them. And also, when it comes to creating deeply affordable housing, this is the hardest kind of housing to create. There's so much resistance locally, and we need to have conversations with our neighbors, with local officials. These are our neighbors. These are people who work and go to school here, who live here, who want to live here, and humanizing it a lot more. Once you start humanizing it, documenting it, you've got all the data in this report. You have the tools you need. You can start to come together. When you set goals, you start to focus on what it is. So homelessness has increased by 2 or 3 times in the last,
3 times.
3 times. How about in your community or regionally, you're setting a goal to reduce it by X% in the next 5 years. Suddenly you're marshaling your resources. You're really putting that plan into effect.
And if you want to check out some information about homelessness in this community, you're going to want to be on Dan O'Connor's Hunger Homeless Commission. He does that once a month, and you get experts in the community talking about it. It's just a really great avenue if you're trying to learn more and learn what to do in your community.
I won't repeat.
I'm just going to add one thing. Rachel said it before, town meeting. If you join your local town meeting, you will see the town meeting rule, which I joke about with my team, which is 90% of the people who go up and speak out for or against a project are against it. And they're always vocal. And I did a veterans project once where it was pretty disheartening. 25 people, probably maybe a little more, came up over the course of the evening and gave speeches about why they shouldn't commit certain local funds to it or why they shouldn't build it or whatever it might be. And towards the end of the night, a gentleman stood up who happened to be a disabled veteran, and the hush that went over the crowd, I can't even describe it. And they called the vote, and it passed. I think it was like 80%, which just shows, I think if he hadn't stood up, it still would have passed realistically. But that vocal element really can dampen things. So you might assume, hey, everyone's going to be for that project. Don't assume. Show up at your town meeting. Show up where you can. Take one evening of the year and raise your hand. And that's all I would say.
Great, thank you. We had a question over at this table here. Yeah, 1 second. There you go.
Thank you. Sorry. Hi, I'm Diana Santana. Nice meeting you all. I'm part of the EOHLC, or the shelter side of work in collaboration also with Judy and also Lemire, and also with House of Hope. So a pleasure to see you here too. My question is, and also part of the Hunger and Homeless Commission, so it's good to see you both over here too. My question is for Greg, actually, because I know that you mentioned that you tap into the resources instead of being in competition with other developers. You mentioned that you're working in collaboration with NeighborWorks and also with Father Bills, which both are also part of our providers, which is great. So what is stopping you, Caritas, to reaching out to this community, Lowell, and the other surrounding towns too, and what can we do to help you? Because let's say like you can match with House of Hope, so I don't know, like what's stopping you? How can we help you as a community?
All right, I guess I'll take that one. So nothing's stopping us. We would love to be up here. The thing is, we self-manage our properties for the most part, although we have done joint ventures in the past. We did 3 joint venture deals with South Boston CDC that they manage. But ultimately, because we self-manage, property management is such a geographic game that our outliers are up in Salem, out in Bedford, and down in New Bedford. So we're getting up here, but it's taken us a little while. But I think I would, definitely be happy to discuss further with both of you about opportunities, whether it's managed by Caritas or not. There's always opportunities to share information and talk shop a little bit. So the more we can collaborate in that spirit, I'd be happy to.
All right. Yep, Chuck. Oh, microphone. Oh, sorry, do we have one over here?
Sorry, I thought I saw a question over here. I'm coming back.
No, we definitely want to get this recorded, so no pressure.
Thank you, and appreciate all your guys' comments. It's very informative. 2 of the panelists mentioned town meetings. I'm on the select board in Pepperell, and exactly what you're saying happens. If people show up to town meetings, they're usually against development, and they don't want change. We had a 40R presentation which failed miserably. And it's all related, I believe that's all related to social media. Because there's a lot of negativity and a lot of untruths that are put on social media that you can't combat. what strategies would you give to local officials like myself so that we can get our townspeople to yes? How do we combat social media when you have other officials giving out information that's not accurate, completely inaccurate? You know, you can't go into a debate over Facebook. No one wins on that except the person that started. The first person with the untruth usually wins that argument. What strategies should we be implementing?
I love this question. It's real. It's very real.
You can't do anything in local towns because you have the atmosphere. Well, we've been here for 250 years and we don't have to have development.
Yep.
It's not a true statement.
The first thing I want to is correct. It is not. It is correct. That is not a true statement. The first thing I want to do is plug CHAPA's Housing Leadership Academy. You should apply. Applications are due on Monday. This is for. It is. I'll explain. I'll tell you all about it. It's for local elected and appointed officials to help give the tools around community engagement, learning the different strategies to do exactly what you're talking about, change the conversation in your community, move it forward. It'll be, cohorts will be created of similar type communities, either by geography, by, form of government. So I can help you out after. If anyone's interested, let me know. In terms of changing that conversation, there is a lot that needs to go into community engagement and working together and doing that one-on-one interactions and helping to create a lot more people who are in your yes bandwagon, so that it is the coffee shop owner. Let me give an example. We've been working in the town of Needham, and we met with a bunch of local business owners. When they went to the public meeting that was happening the next week, it was a completely different public meeting than they had had, and the news coverage showed it. It said business owners said, we need housing. Had the person who runs the hospital. He said very few people who work in the hospital live anywhere near this community. I had the coffee shop owner. Everybody loves this coffee shop. He says, my employees commute from 90 minutes away. Had the shoe store owner. You had a totally different dynamic. And it did actually, in Needham with the MBTA Communities Act, they initially passed a very strong plan at town meeting. Unfortunately, it did go to the ballot, and they learned that they had to get this message out even broader. The plan was reduced, still in compliance, no problem there, and they actually have new housing coming. It's a lot around community engagement, very strategic, very, it's very intentional is the word I'm looking for, reaching out to a lot of different types of people in the community and making sure that they are joining you in that work. But let me follow up after, because I think the Housing Leadership Academy would be great.
All right, great. I think we have a question right here.
Can I just add one other thing?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Is that the messaging and engagement can't just be around a development, though, right? I mean, I think that's the thing that we lose track of, is that it's community, and Rachel and I have lived in the same community in the past, so I think we've experienced this. It can't just be around this development and now we're going to message everyone about how important it is. It has to be an ongoing conversation about access to affordable, safe housing that all people in our community deserve. Period, stop. I'm not asking you to support something, right? And so it has to be an ongoing message rather than the moment when it's about this permanent supportive housing at the end of this street. Now it's been about, I agree, but... And then the but part is really what drives you, right? So I don't want to lose track of that, and I know that's part of your guys' work anyway. But that is a huge part of, too often we're only having the engagement and conversation when we're trying to get to a yes versus trying to build awareness in general of how important it is.
Add one more thing to that. Before the pandemic, we had done public opinion polling to get people's, how do people feel about housing? The results were not good. And so it wasn't that people didn't want housing, but it was all the things you said, the fear, what's going to happen. So we decided during the pandemic that we were going to focus on how we talk about housing. And so we worked with this wonderful company called The Case Made, and we spent time thinking about what makes Massachusetts so great. We know that we're at this innovative state. We like to solve problems. What we did was we started to entirely change how we talk about it. It wasn't about that one housing development. It wasn't talking about that one district. It was talking about the future of what we want our state to be And we've taught people to do this in their communities. Who are we as a community? Who do we want to be? And to start talking in a way where people can see themselves reflected, where people can see, I want to be able to stay in this community when I need a different kind of home. I want my kids to be able to move back here. I want the teachers to be able to live near here. It becomes a very different story. So I thank you for bringing that up, because it has to be bigger than just one thing. And then that one thing fits into this bigger narrative of who you are.
So I think we have time for 2 more questions. So we're going to go here and then here.
Hello, my name is Joanne Howell. I'm the director of the Resource Center at Community Teamwork in Lowell. Rachel, I just want to talk about something you mentioned earlier, which is using community preservation funds. And I heard several other towns here asking the questions, what can you do? Currently, Community Teamwork is partnering with the town of Bedford, and they utilize community preservation funds and we are there 3 days a week providing supportive housing. In that fund, we partner with the vocational schools to provide short-term education to increase income, and therefore, I think maybe 3 or 4 in the last year have moved out, therefore recreating new housing for other low-income individuals. So as you're looking in different towns around, looking at that CPC funding. And I just want to say thank you to the United Way. They have helped several of our clients, I couldn't even count, while we help individual access shelter and or other housing. So thank you so much for that support.
All right. I guess that wasn't really a question. I do think one thing, I think one thing that a lot of communities don't realize is you don't have to stop at 10% with CPA in supporting housing. You can go more than 10%. That's a question over here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Romero. I'm currently a volunteer at Coalition for a Better Acre. I'm so sorry about that glitch. We are a 501 nonprofit. We currently have a building at Merrimack Street, 555, helping those that are off drugs, they have to be 1 year of sobriety. Anyways, I have a question for the board. Well, panels. I'm so sorry. If there was a homeless person that you guys saw, what would you say to those that would think, hey, I'm homeless, I want services? What would you say to those that would want those services?
So we have plenty of homeless individuals and families that come to our door at House of Hope. So unfortunately, we can't just take them in to stay. It goes through the state. But I always tell the staff, be kind. Have them come in, offer them a meal. If it's cold right now, we just created closets in all the shelters that we give them coats and hats and mittens. Then we ask them what's going on, give them resources. Sometimes we sit there and call with them, call different resources, because everybody has a story. So if we can figure out, how we can help them today, we always do that.
Any other responses to that? Yeah. Okay. We do have one other question here. So, yeah.
Thank you, Marie, and thank you for the panel, everyone in the panel. My question is for Greg. Given the rising development costs and the gap between rent and local income, what policy or financial tools you believe would help nonprofit developers like yourself to build more units that are truly affordable for families, and also making sure that those units remain affordable over the long period of time?
Great question. I would say vouchers, more vouchers. Massachusetts has a great MRVP program. We have VASH vouchers for veterans. Section 8, obviously, one of those things that's increasingly at risk. We want to be really cognizant of the fact that we need vouchers, because if you make $22,000 a year and you can only pay 30% of your rent, you're not covering half the expenses it costs to actually run the building. So then you're operating at a deficit, and then you're relying on donor dollars, and then you're ultimately not able to put money back into the building. I think preservation is important. We had a legacy portfolio at Caritas that we had to continue to fight to get new vouchers on because we had lodging houses that were unvouchered for many years, and it once worked. Maybe in 1995 it worked. Expenses are a little higher now, and incomes aren't. So to answer your question, I think subsidy. I also think there's other ways to make it more attractive. I think the longer you do an affordability covenant, you should essentially be rewarded for that in the form of a tax abatement, for example. Some investors or developers are just going to do the minimum requirement of 15 or 30 years. What if you do it in perpetuity? Can you get some kind of economic benefit for that and pay it forward? So there's a lot of economics behind it, but I think it's an awesome question. I could probably wax all day on it, so I'll stop now.
We have time for one more question here, right up in the front. Right here. Yeah.
First off, thank you to the panel, organizers, and everybody here tonight. My name's Jose. I'm part of the Hunger and Homeless Commission here in Lowell. So, listening to you guys, you mentioned something, red tape. If you can elaborate on that into what you just said, Greg, is that a cause to the rise in building? If we eliminate some of that red tape?
Loaded question. There are absolutely areas where we can be more efficient in how not just affordable housing is financed, but also how market rate housing is financed. Because if we weren't so supply constrained, if we had enough housing for people who can afford a house at a normal cost, the problem is we don't have any houses that cost the normal amount anymore in Massachusetts, right? And part of that is the zoning, right? So that was one way of framing red tape. And there's other ways we can just make it more effective and more efficient, whether that's making the tax credit program more efficient, whether it's using opportunity zones to incentivize current developers, private and for-profit and nonprofit, to use those incentive tools better. I think part of it is just the information. Part of it is just we're so used to doing things one way that it takes time to change the paradigm and do it a new way. But yes, I fully, to answer your question more succinctly, think that to simplify zoning codes is part of the solution. Yeah.
All right. Oh, wait, did we have another answer here?
Yes, everything you just said about zoning. Zoning, permitting, how approvals are decided at the local level. There's so many stories where a development will get approved by a town meeting and then go through a very long process called site plan review. And that could be a year, could be longer. Suddenly there's different things that need to be changed. That all drives up the cost and can make the project actually not happen or more expensive. We're working on a bill that would define site plan review, set time frames around it. That's helpful for communities to actually see, okay, these are the things that fall under it. It's helpful for the developers to know that this is a more predictable process. Jenny mentioned that she was on the Unlocking Housing Production Commission. They put out a report that is filled with recommendations around permitting and the approval processes. When you can make things faster and easier and still keep the public input, things will become more possible to build, and we can build much more quickly. So lots on the red tape and things we could do there.
All right. So we have one last question over here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Evelyn De Jesus, and I am a volunteer for the Open Pantry of Greater Lowell. I just want to say thank you for 15 years of positive progress. Now we can actually ensure health care. SNAP benefits is now flexible. It can be EBT, cash assistance to help Greg Richardson to sell homes. I just want to say thank you for your dedication. With Julie Lemire, thank you so much for being here, because now we can actually pass the student loan forgiveness bill to reinvest that deficit for housing opportunities. I just want to say, stay creative. Remember, home is an adjective, but it's flexible and renewable to be invested in. We like to live outside. Let's use the tents at Walmart to refurbish the burned terrain of fires that happen within Massachusetts. This can be done with college graduates and high school graduates. So my question for you guys today is there going to be upcoming trainings with the new bank transfer from Enterprise Bank into Rockland Trust? This can help us understand how to utilize EBT cash assistance to provide the American dream. I can finally call a place to call home. No more volunteering at farms, sleeping under a tree, or next to the sheeps, or canoeing all the way to New London to enjoy a nice slice of salmon. So those are my journeys working at the Open Pantry. I want you guys to feel empowered to work as a team. But let us know, because Digital Credit Union would like to have that to help real estate agents to sell homes, to support the renewal of new property development, but also at the same time refurbishing and restoration as well for local and private government housing that supports us, our 10-year goals. Remember SNAP benefits, we almost lost it in November 1st of 2025. And that grant cannot be defunded until 2028. Help us with recycling so we can renew that and provide for more. Thank you.
All right. So I think we have a question just about training with financial literacy as maybe as part of those wraparound services. Is that something that maybe either Greg or Julie?
Oh, yeah. Well, we do lots of financial training at House of Hope. We'd love to continue that. We should have it in the schools, by the way. It shouldn't be coming when they're adults. Let's get it back in high school. I could have used it, but yeah.
Marty, you have a housing counseling agency here, Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, does great work. Homeownership is possible. There are tools to down payment assistance and other tools to use to buy a home. There are affordable homes, but I would work with your local organizations on accessing that.
All right, great. So I want to thank the panelists for your contributions, for being here with us tonight. Because we're a little short on time, I'm going to have you, well, first of all, let's give a panelist a round of applause. Thank you. And I know some of you came here from 90 minutes away, so I appreciate your journey on the way to get here as well. Our panelists are going to join you at your tables, and we're going to have about 10 minutes of table talk. And this is you have a facilitator at each one of your table. I know 10 minutes is not a lot of time to talk about all 4 of these questions here. But these are questions that I think you're helping give back to us and helping us shape our next steps as we move into action. So let's have conversations around these 4 questions here. So what has changed in 2 years? What stayed the same? Thinking about the at-home and Greater Lowell strategies, what should be the first step in reducing housing insecurity? What role can you or an organization or a community that you represent, you're all here representing somebody, what can you play in implementing the strategies? And what role could a housing accelerator play? Maybe we'll focus on these first 3 questions here, and we can talk a little bit more about the housing accelerator later on. So with that, we're going to have these conversations for 10 minutes at our table, and then we're going to move into the next section of our program. Thank you.
Designated facilitator.
report out that each of our facilitators will do around the table. So everybody need to end conversations and start reporting. For us, we really focused on how homelessness is changing, becoming more visible in the suburban communities, and how that might affect there being more possibility for advocacy. The advocacy has to be about funding from federal sources, changes in policy at the state level, especially with kind of more voucher-based housing, because it's really bigger than the towns and the affordable trusts. One thing that our table really liked was the idea of a growth strategy, a growth plan, understanding where in each community things can grow and what infrastructure changes need to happen to allow for that. I don't know where the wandering microphone is. Hello, okay. We are going to have a report out from here.
All right. I hope my group is okay with me summarizing this. We didn't really talk about what we would lift up, but I think a couple key takeaways is around making storytelling impossible to ignore and holding elected officials accountable to everyone in the community and not just a select few.
That's the kind of report out that I like.
Okay, so a few things my group talked about. For the first question, what changed was centralized, digitized waiting lists, and it streamlined access. What stayed the same was family homelessness remains a persistent issue. For the second question, we talked about policies constantly shifting at the federal and local levels, which is creating a lot of uncertainty and frustration, which I'm sure many of your tables spoke about. And for the last question, we really could not identify one thing to be the first step. It's all about all of it happening all at once, so education, collaboration, and agency coming together to collaborate to tackle the issues together.
Thank you so much. That reminds me of something I said at the table, which was we need to find the right partners that can do action.
Here we really discussed the fact that what has changed in the past 2 years is that everybody comes to Lowell because that is where the services are. And so it may not be so visible in Pepperell or Billerica, but everybody comes to Lowell because they have the services. And what do communities possibly need to have the services in their communities? And the other thing about weaving the systems issues, like the economic conditions have gotten really bad, and we're not addressing the root causes, and often some Band-Aids are put on them instead. And then maybe governments need to be a little bit more accountable through performance measures for some programs, and a little bit about what Marty talked about is maybe this is the time to step back and reassess programs.
Thank you.
I apologize to my table if I missed a few things, but over the past couple years, we have some observations that rents are up. The timeline for shelter has caused problems. Not all municipalities have taken up housing issues equally, including MBTA communities. Some of the first steps in reducing housing insecurity, we did talk a lot about engagement, the need for engagement, service integration and coordination, and advocacy, and roles that we could play. We had some feedback that we're doing a lot of fair housing work and improving case management. But again, we came back to needing strategies for awareness, getting new people to the town meetings.
New people. One thing is, I know there's more stuff that was talked about at these tables. We can report out. We did take comprehensive notes, and we'll be sharing all of that after the event.
A couple key themes that came up in our discussion. One, when talking about what strategies can be implemented, would be for the Affordable Housing Trust. We have a couple representatives from Trust here. Not only funding, but advocating, being a source of advocacy in the community and changing narratives, and garnering support. Also sharing out resources, ensuring the community knows how and when to participate. Talking about housing instability and what the best way to reduce that is. Identifying the most vulnerable and hardest to engage in the community and supporting them with increased investment and support, especially with services that are known to work to assist those. And a major focus on homelessness prevention, investment, resource sharing, and support, both for tenants who are at risk and landlords so that they can act as advocates.
Thank you so much. Doing a speed run here, but we also want those at home to be able to hear what we talked about.
All right. In my group, I'm briefly summarizing kind of some big picture things that we talked about. One thing that we've noticed that has changed in the last 2 years is an increase in frustration and anger of house people who like their neighborhood and don't want anything to change. And that kind of led into that second question, thinking about the at-home and Greater Lowell strategies, creating kind of centralized resources for those experiencing homelessness. So one continuum of care organization to lead the charge, especially in helping address the navigation that comes from social change that individuals will experience as they move through different levels or systems of support in the region.
Thank you so much. I got a couple more.
All right, so we have a couple of really high-level things here to share. What has changed? There's been some massive policy changes, obviously, like the MBTA Communities Act, but there's a lot that stay the same. Organizations are still very siloed. Conversation about housing really has not changed all that much. There's still a lot of talking, but not enough action, and there's still very loud NIMBY voices. And then maybe just let's share one thing about what people can do. I found this to be very salient, just to focus on strengths. Really identify what your personal strength is. If that's talking to an individual, talk to an individual. If you like to get up and talk to a crowd, get up and talk to a crowd. But find your personal strength and try to activate it.
That's an incredible call to action.
Yes, so our group discussed kind of what's changed and what's stayed the same over the last 2 years. The stigma on homelessness has increased over the last 2 years, which is makes it harder to garner public support for programming and housing. Also, MBTA communities is the one, I think, big zoning change that's happened in the last 2 years, and that was mandated by the state and made a law. So as far as what should be kind of the first step for reducing homelessness, church groups can provide centers for people, community centers, and I guess what role should towns play being innovative and using spaces for multiple uses, and maybe using community centers in off-peak hours for heating or other supportive,
Thank you, Mike. No, that was great. And, there's a lot of need for those day centers and drop-in programs, too. We don't have enough time to talk about it, but they're so important.
Thank you, Chris. Our group talked about a lot of policy changes, primarily MBTA, the state bond bill. We did have a bit of a debate over the effectiveness of rent control as a policy. As far as question 2, like Table 4, we talked about the need to emphasize it as a regional strategy and make sure that services are available throughout the region. And as far as question 3, talking about developing more housing, being able to maintain services, and advocacy.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll wrap it up with the last table and have about 10, 15 minutes for storytelling.
Okay. Thanks, Griggs. Over the past 2 years, our group discussed about that post-pandemic funds has dried up. Homelessness has increased also in the past 2 years. There is a positive sign that people started to think about housing as more of a generational again. And there is also a positive change that there is a positive change in equal housing as well. Looking at the downsides, employment is being seen as a social indicator, and working to help people with there should be more work to help people with mental health as well as people who are not connected to social securities as well. And for question 3, trying to incentivize the community to build housing, and there's also zoning laws should be changed to help build more houses as well.
Thank you so much. Let's have a quick round of applause for all those speed run summaries. I'd like to introduce Health Resources in Action, who will be introducing themselves in the storytelling program.
Thanks, Chris. Hey, everybody. My name is Ben Wood, and I am with Health Resources in Action, HRIA. I'm here with my colleagues, Kathy McCabe and Destiny Gonzalez, and not here, but really important part of this work, our colleague Erica Gaitan. I'm not going to go through the presentation that we have for you all today because we don't have time for it, but I just want to share a few things about what it is that why we're here and what it is that we're trying to do with and in partnership with the NMCOG. So I took a lot of really interesting notes in that conversation. It was incredibly rich, and some of the things that I heard were that there needs to be some way to defend programs that work, right? There needs to be people who are showing up locally who actually support development and can try in some way, shape, or form to crowd out and combat some of those other loud voices that don't support development. I heard this sentiment that, I think this was from Rachel. She said, you're the experts, you have experience, and the question is, what are you going to do with that experience? I heard from Marty that there needs to be an ongoing conversation that happens, not just a mobilization around a particular development to show up, but there needs to be something that is sustainable, something that is actually working to shift and change people's minds and hearts a little bit more, again, sustainably and maybe more effectively. I've heard that there has been an increase in discord and a lot of anger that happens when people show up at town meeting and in conversations around housing. So I guess the question is, what are you actually going to do about all those things? And one of the things that we think is incredibly important is to center the actual human experience of housing in a way that can be a little bit more effective and strategic in moving the needle on policy development and actually sort of working towards that long-term process of changing people's minds and hearts. So we've been contracted by the NMCOG to go through a process to help understand a little bit more about what the reality is of the housing conversation in the greater Lowell region. And we spent a lot of time over the past couple months doing some deep dives into things like town meeting minute notes and looking at newspaper articles and having conversations with a lot of different people to really try to understand what are the sort of major ways in which people are talking about housing and what are some of the things that we think could actually be brought forward in a strategic way and collectively amplify so that we are sharing similar concepts and sharing similar ideas, all with the backdrop of it being based upon people's lived experience and emotion behind it, which is the whole point of storytelling. So really quickly, what I'm going to do is go through 3 themes that have emerged from that conversation, and then we have a worksheet that we developed. We were going to do a little bit of exercise and activity tonight, but what we're going to do is just introduce this activity and worksheet, and then we're going to do some follow-up with you all. Hopefully you'll want to join us in a longer-term effort to think about how best to tell your own personal story, but also to engage with people whose story really need to be told. Again, because you know that the squeaky wheel usually shows up at places like town meeting, and we need to figure out different ways of getting different and underrepresented voices in part of the conversation. So the first theme is that home shapes our future in health, and what this theme is really working to explain is that when rents rise sharply or housing conditions deteriorate, we know that families face stress, that there are inconsistent routines, and that there are significant health impacts, that stability depends on both the physical condition of a home and the policies that govern the safety, affordability, and tenant protections, and that these types of effects show up very differently for different types of populations. This question, this theme raises lots of different questions for us. What kind of practices help people remain safely and stably housed? How do housing conditions show up in health, schooling, or daily routines? And what would a secure place to live look like in your town? So if you're working with people and thinking about the types of experiences that they're having, how could those types of questions show up in some stories, and how could they be used to really sort of move the needle on policy change? The next theme is rules and resources shape what's possible. So people experience rules even they don't know them by name. Of course, we know that to be true. Not everybody is steeped or wants to be steeped in local rules, ordinances, zoning conversations. So what this particular theme raises for us, and what could really show up in storytelling, is where do local rules show up in people's lives, even if residents are not talking about them directly. So how can we work with folks to pull out the stories that relate to the particular rules that are helping shape their experiences, and help people talk about them even if they're not talking about the very specific rule itself? How do zoning or transportation decisions shift who can live in a town? Where do you see people having fewer options because of the policies where they live? So all those types of questions, could we see them be part of good stories? And how could those stories, again, be used to advance policy change? The third theme that we came up with was when housing works, communities work. It's a very simple sounding concept, but we think it's incredibly rich and important. We heard again and again that there's, through our conversations and through the research that we did, that there's a real priority that needs to be played on and put on regional interdependence, right? So across this region, a decision that's being made in one town has impacts on the lives of people in another town. So how can we really sort of get out of our just our local box and sort of really think about how the entire sort of system and region can work together more effectively. So this particular theme raises very salient questions for storytellers. How do housing decisions in one town affect its neighbors? Which workers are getting pushed farther away because of high housing costs, and what does that mean for local services? How do local housing decisions shape the region's ability to hire, retain, and sustain its workforce? I bet you all could think about people who are living and working in this region, or maybe can't live in this region but work in this region, and yeah, I bet you know folks like that, and we could engage them in some process to lift up those particular stories, again, to tell those, to humanize this issue, and then to bring those stories to bear to influence policy change. Those three themes are the themes that we've come up with through research. They're not set in stone in any way, shape, or form. We want to continue to get feedback on them, but the overall idea is that we're going to try and create a way for folks to engage with those particular narratives, those particular themes, tell their personal stories, engage folks who they know whose stories could be told, and then to amplify them in a consistent way, in a sustainable way. So we're going to be working with the NMCOG to set up that type of a system to collect those stories. The NMCOG is developing a platform, a digital platform, where these stories could be housed sustainably. And the idea is that over the years, those stories will be built upon, added upon, and we'll have a richer, more sustainable base of real lived experiences to draw from to advance pro-housing solutions in the region. So I'll wrap up there. The activity that was just passed out to you, what we're going to do is we're going to send it to you all. I think we'll send it to you all. The NMCOG will do that. What we'll do is we'll make that form a fillable form, so it'll be easier, or maybe we'll turn into a little survey of some sort, so it's easier for you all to fill it out. We hope you engage with it. We heard throughout the conversation tonight that there really needs to be a real priority placed on lifting up the humanity behind the.
We're done. That was it. No. I don't think that there is any closing slide anyway, or anything else to see, is there? Something specific?
The closing slide was that there's an exit survey you've been handed out. If you can't do it, you can also go to NMCOG.org/exit survey.
Here we go. How's that? I don't know why it's not showing the actual slideshow. Let's see. There we go. We know what to do. There we have it. All right. So we do hope that you can take this exit survey. It will help us and inform the work that we're going to keep on doing on this particular project. We greatly appreciate you attending tonight. I just think, in general, I want to give a round of applause for the panel, for Kelly's moderation of the panel, for all of you and your contributions and your participation, to the staff team who did a lot to support this evening to get everything together, to the various council members who are in the room, and all of the other local leaders who are all here with us tonight. I greatly appreciate your time and attention on this particular topic. My task was to summarize some top takeaways. Actually, Ben did a great job of giving a summary, but some things that I also heard were that we need both more housing and stronger supportive services, that production, services, and systems must move together. Zoning reform, as I've heard you all say pretty repeatedly, is essential, especially simplifying certain types of zoning to allow for and leverage various types of multifamily housing. But also I heard that showing up at meetings is really key to getting that to happen. So there was some encouragement for all of you to join local boards, and I always encourage people to participate in their local community if you can do that. Even if you show up just for your open town meeting, do that. But if you can and you have the time and the willingness to participate in decision-making in your local community, please do that. So I know how much time it takes because I do it myself. Supportive housing must be reframed, particularly using human stories, clear goals, and intentional outreach to build understanding and trust, I heard. Community resistance and rising stigma are definitely barriers, but also the post-pandemic funding gaps are widening and deepening, which is causing some serious problems and really an emergency, increasing the urgency for sustainable state and federal investments. Coordination, like what we're doing tonight, is really critical to making movement happen, to get things to actually be built and homes created. And action must replace talk. So with that in mind, I will say thank you all for your willingness to be here and talk to us and to hopefully take action. And to those of you who've been watching this from home, I hope you will do the same. So thank you again. I'm Jenny Raitt, the Executive Director of NMCOG. Thank you to all of you for tonight. Good evening.
I'm going to hang out for at least another 10 minutes. Anybody want to talk about stories?